Brown.
Hello.
Welcome on the pod.
Oh no.
And here come the pups.
Oh, no.
That was wild.
Was
if you're not watching on YouTube, basically, I was so excited to see my good friend Steph Brown that we have our pups with us, and they also got so excited when I screamed Steph Brown, and they basically knocked over the lighting situation I have going on here.
And none of us moved.
None of us moved.
Nobody tried to rectify the situation. We kind of were all just like, well,
well, I guess this is like falling against the bookshelf.
We'll start in 10, I guess. Yeah, can we get the crew here? We're gonna start back up in 10. Can we reset?
The crew is literally like just
the crew
me.
is Taylor,
It's Taylor,
who also did not get up.
Oh my God, that's so funny. And now I feel bad because my dog Maple, she's like a little scaredy cat. She's like just cowering in the corner now. So it's just poor baby.
Well,
but
Diesel's pissed because she's like getting treats, and Diesel's like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Oh my God.
Are we good?
Yeah, we're good. Sorry, I'm just checking,
No,
playing
you're
with
good.
levels, which I shouldn't be doing during the pod. But I don't have a producer, man. Okay.
This is self-funded, self-produced.
This is everything.
If
Steph
you're-
Brown,
Hello.
how are you? You are a gem, a true comedian. And I just am such a fan. Steph, I have to give you one compliment on air, and I know you've heard me say it 15,000 times, but you have to hear it again because I haven't said it publicly.
I know what you're gonna say.
My favorite thing about, I know, because I've said it. I think I say it.
I know what people are gonna say when they compliment me. It's like kind of whatever.
My favorite thing about our conversations, because we've done a bunch of shows together, is after you and I will be talking after the show, and I will have to time my responses to our conversation in a way to let people come up to you and tell you what a fan they are of yours, which has become such a regular occurrence that I'll be in the middle of something, pause and step away. Oh my God, Steph Brown, you were hilarious. I'm such a fan. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. And then I will come back into the conversation.
It's a little measlier, the thank you, but it's close. Oh my God, thank you so much.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
No, I really, I appreciate that. I have to give you your flowers then, since we're doing this.
Oh my God.
Your show, phenomenal.
Oh, thank you, Steph.
Both the show, wait, look, people are trying to come in.
Are they trying to come in? We're closed. You can leave it there. Yes, that's fine. We'll take the books.
I'm like saying we're closed as if I have anything to do with
This
the store.
fucking guy is interrupting my flowers. Where we record in a bookstore, and a lot of people think we're open, but we are.
record in a book. What? Holy shit.
We are. This is a bookstore. I thought it was a puppet show place. They also do puppet shows here. No, there were people trying to donate books very lovingly, and I said, we're fucking closed. And I was in the middle of getting my flowers, and that was interrupted. So
he actually
my
told
day
them
is
to
ruined.
burn them. Matt's actually pro burning books.
There was a lot of pro-gay stuff in there. There was a lot of non-Nazi rhetoric in there, and we need to burn that stuff.
We had to burn it.
What a way to start Pride Month with
I
that,
know.
just on the pod, just being.
No, Matt, you have a phenomenal show. Both the show that
thanks,
you run
Steph.
here and obviously your one-man show.
That's so nice. And we're running it again, I think, June 30th. So thank you so much for letting me plug that. You all better be here. All of you, which will be. But, Steph, this is your episode.
Oh, God.
And I'm so... I just, put it on you. No, I want to talk to you, before we get into your low point, I want to know just a little bit about your journey into comedy. I mean, you're so freaking funny. Were you always this funny? Were you always the person... just cracking people up. Were you always a performer or no?
Yeah, I did theater growing up.
Okay. What was your big theater role?
Oh my God. This is my camera. I was Velma Von Tussle in my high school production of Hairspray. If anyone from high school is watching this, I know you probably didn't like me that much. But you can't tell me I didn't kill as Velma Von Tussle. That was my crowning achievement. You've no idea. Senior year of high school.
Oh, senior.
Yeah.
Oh my God, senior year. That's a big deal. It's your senior role,
Yeah.
right? Is there a lot of politics that goes into that when they cast for that sort of stuff? When you're a high school senior?
So it's funny because I didn't do theater at my high school until I was a senior.
Mm-hmm.
I did a separate theater group, a community theater group.
Oh, interesting.
From I guess late elementary through middle school.
Okay.
And the politics in that were insane.
I bet, because that's you're with adults and stuff too, right?
It wasn't even. It was all kids. They had a junior cast and a senior cast, right? Which is basically middle schoolers and high schoolers.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference is it was a bunch of rich people. So it was not only were you talented, but it was also were your parents donating money?
Wow. Oh my God.
I love my parents. I love them to death. They're a fireman and a teacher, a New York City school teacher. We're not donating money, okay? we're paying the fee to get into this goddamn program.
Right.
And I would say taking out a second mortgage, but they were renting at the time, so we weren't even doing that.
That's crazy that it's like that political at like that, the community theater level.
I mean, these were kids that like wanted to go on to like, they,
Right.
you know, like they were like, yeah, I have, you know.
Did any of them like end up going there?
Some
We're
did some
gonna name
off-Broadway
names.
Oh, I will. I don't care. No, some did some off-Broadway stuff, and a lot of them were very talented. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
A lot of them were also just very rich.
Yeah, that's the thing. I like, especially now, just like these past few years, I'm realizing no matter what field you're in, it's so political. You just can't get away from that stuff, which is like so disheartening in a way. But I guess maybe at the same time, like if you don't face that, like maybe you're like I feel a little naive. Hello, Diesel. I feel a little naive that I didn't like always see it. You know what I mean?
I know, but I think the thing that's so comforting is that comedy is just based on merit and not who you know.
Yeah.
And none of that. Yeah, there's no nepo. It definitely isn't based on followers. A lot of you with a lot of followers deserve to be up there. I promise you.
That is Steph.
I promise you.
This is why you are my hero. Did you catch me like politely agreeing with you at first? I was like, I guess there's a world I see.
Yeah, no, it has nothing to do with how many followers you have on TikTok.
You know the thing that like everything now, and what I think differs coming up now versus maybe like 20, 30 years ago is like now whenever you ask someone, you know, what should I be doing? Where should I be going up? That kind of thing. I feel like what I've experienced, and I'm curious to hear your feedback as well, is like all I've heard is like, man, just do your own thing. Like just like it's all like, in other words, it's good and bad that it's like now all up to you personally.
I mean, I agree. That's what I choose to believe, right? Like I choose to believe that there really isn't one path, and like
Sure.
if you're supposed to get there, you're gonna figure it out in the way that like you figure it out.
Yeah.
I think where a lot of comics, man, I'm 2 years in, so don't skip this part. Like, who the fuck am I to tell anybody any of this? But like, I think where a lot of comics, at our level get well, you've been doing a little longer than me, but where they get tripped up is like, well, you know, John Mulaney came up through doing this, and so I have to do this,
right?
And it's just like, just put your fucking head down and do the work.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Like, I don't know. I
No,
don't know what the right way. If I knew what the right way to do it was, I wouldn't be sitting in. No, I'd be on this podcast still.
No,
but I wouldn't fucking be here.
You're like you would. I would have. It would have been harder to book me.
Yeah,
like,
it would have been way harder.
No,
you would have had a producer if I.
If I called you directly, if you didn't have an assistant to reach out to me for you, there's no way.
Absolutely.
I hear that 100%. I actually heard, because you know I'm a huge Mike Birbiglia guy, and he was just on a podcast which I loved. He just had a new special come out. He's talking about like his creative process, and like he's just said, he's like, just like don't worry about it. Like just do the things you want to do, make the things you want to make. And he brought up such a good point, because he's like, half the time nobody's gonna be paying you anyway. Like, you're probably not going to make money off it, so just do it because you'll love it. And, like, once you remember that, you kind of, like, come back down to earth and you stop playing the comparison game and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I get, like, if you don't, and again, I'm not jaded yet, really. I mean, I'm jaded about everything. I've been jaded since I was, like, 8 years old. But, like, I don't think I'm super jaded about comedy yet. And so, to me, it's like, well, if you want to do something and you like to do it, do it. Look, there's a lot of shit in comedy that we have to do that I don't like doing.
Yeah. What's something you hate?
I mean, I famously hate sketches. Like, famously.
Really? That's interesting.
I think yard sale girls, this does not apply to you. You can keep scrolling. I think also, like, there are some other comics, like, that I know that do really good sketches.
Sure.
Noah Snyder, Ethan Mead. I think Tommy Bayer does some with them, too. Like, I'm not talking about you guys. If I didn't say your name, I might be talking about you. No, it's so frustrating to me. And I was talking to somebody about this yesterday of like, why do I have to do this thing that I don't want to do to be able to do to get recognized for the thing that I want to do? And I think a lot of comics are like, oh, well, because like I don't want to burn through material. Nobody fucking knows your material right now.
I know.
Nobody's like flying in from Wichita, Kansas to see you at Union Pool, okay? Like, you know what I mean? I don't understand the like logic of that. And again, maybe I'm naive and maybe this will be in like a compilation in 5 years of like I fucking hate sketches, and then it's just like me like doing a bunch of like random accents. But that's one thing I hate. The other thing I hate is just like how, and I don't think anybody likes this, but like the competitiveness, I understand.
Sure.
The reaction to the competitiveness and like how people will like talk down on someone who's like actually funny.
Yeah.
Or, like, treat each other is so fucking lame to me. Like half of this is like getting people to like you.
I relate to so hard. And like that is the thing that and I like how we're having this open conversation. You've been doing it 2 years, right? And
yeah.
this is my 4th year doing it, right? So again, we're not coming from a place of like this wealth of experience, but just talking about like what we've experienced so far, which is so much of it is just like a likability contest, which is in kind of like direct contrast to what we were just talking about, which is that like do things because you love them. Don't be in a sketch just because like you think you have to do it or like something. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, or just like be fucking nice. Which I always say, like,
I know.
if you're so intimidated by another comic that you have to be rude to them or talk down to them, then you should have been funnier. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, then try harder. If that's your reaction.
It's and you had, I don't know if you want to talk about this on the podcast, but I do think it's an experience that like would help, especially maybe like some women who like trying to be comics. You got bullied at a mic, right, by one comic. I won't say the name of the mic or something like that. We talked about it a few weeks ago. We don't have to talk about it if you don't
yeah.
want to.
Oh, I don't. I'm me trying not to name names. I didn't get bullied. Let me start by saying I did instigate it. I think that's really important to recognize. One thing I'm gonna do is talk shit. If there's anybody watching this that knows me, just know I haven't changed.
I love that.
And you will see this in a few years, and it will be the same thing. It's funny. Basically, a comic called me a bitch on stage, and like really meant it. And it was funny because I called my dad after, and I was just like telling him, he's like, sometimes people just put you in a position where you got to do what you got to do, and like that was kind of my mindset of like, you can't let people. I think the way this industry treats women is disgusting. I think the way this country treats women is disgusting. But I think the way this industry treats women is disgusting. I think the way other male comics talk about women is disgusting. And I think this guy got like kind of the wrath of all of that.
Sure.
If you're seeing this, I don't know, go write a fucking joke. But I kind of like got to the point where I was like, whatever. But that wasn't even like the worst of. I've had like way. At least that one I instigated. I've had way more uncalled for like interactions doing comedy.
Yeah.
I think part of it is just like being a woman and people inherently just like don't respect you.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I'm not funny for a girl. Like, I'm funny.
Right,
exactly. And if that, like, you can't wrap your head around that, I don't care. I'll see you.
I say this. I've said this to my fiance. I've said this to a few comics before, and it's annoying. I'm not trying to be preachy. I'm not trying to be like likable through this viewpoint. It's a genuine feeling I have, which is that if I was a woman, I don't know if I would have the courage to do comedy. Because it is like, you know what I mean? Like, but I'm not saying that as like a.
No, I get.
You know what
you're
saying?
I mean, growing up, so my dad's a really funny guy. I don't know if he is stand up funny, but like, my dad can tell a story like no other. Like, can captivate a room. Like, he's just he's quick. He's really, really fun. My mom's funny too, but my dad is just really funny in a different way. And I have vivid memories of like people laughing at jokes he's made, and in my head, younger, being like, damn, I wish I was a boy so people would think I was funny.
No, you've had that thought? Wow.
And I don't have that anymore now.
No, of course now.
I choose being a woman 1,000 times over, right? But like growing up, it was in my head that like women really aren't that funny. Which is crazy because I was always funny.
Right. Can you tell me more about that? Like, in other words, like, so you would look at your dad. Like, did you have that same storytelling style and stuff when you were younger?
I think there was like a crassness that he was allowed to have that like I have now developed.
Yes, which I love.
Yeah. But like as a younger girl, like didn't think I was allowed to. Like I thought that's what funny was.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way it is, but like I didn't think I was allowed to emulate that, right? Like I wasn't allowed to make the jokes that the boys would laugh at because it it's not what women do, right? Or it's not funny
Right.
when it comes from a woman, or like people aren't going to perceive it in the same way because I'm not a guy. Um, and I think there are still people that think women, go on Reddit. Like there are millions of people that think women aren't funny.
Yeah.
Those people live probably really sad lives and don't have a lot of sex. So like I don't really care
Right.
if you like Johnny Boy 637 on Reddit like thinks women aren't cool.
Reddit
I think
is-
you make 13 an hour. Like what are
This
we
is,
fighting about?
Like Reddit is just such a toxic place. I discovered Reddit this past year. I've never been
really?
on Reddit. And now everything just like my friend Connor, who I met here, like pointed it out to me, and I was like, oh, it's like interesting, whatever. Every thread I read just turns into a fight midway
Yeah.
through. It's like crazy.
I know, but I love Reddit. I not even for the drama. I love TikTok for the comment drama. If I have a question, I literally go and ask Reddit.
Really? So you will actively engage in like asking.
I
the
will write
community?
on Reddit threads. I will like if I'm looking for like a new video game to play or something, I will like check
Yeah.
Reddit reviews. Like
Yes.
I will Reddit is like my first line of defense. He's coming back.
I love it.
For everything. Like I check Reddit all the time.
Wow.
Am I putting probably way too much weight in like people's opinions that they don't even have profile pictures? Like how
No,
am
exactly.
I-
Yeah, and that's like, those are always the worst
the
ones.
worst, yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I don't mind. I think social media, which is crazy because I work in social media,
Right.
and I think social media has done a lot of great things. And I'm just saying this. I love my job. I think social media is really important and shouldn't go away. I think it is so ugly and heartbreaking in a way of like
Yeah.
how people treat each other on the internet. It's insane to me.
It is insane, and like that is something like because I try to obviously I think like I've started posting a lot like past 2 or 3 years, and that was something I just don't read the comments anymore. I don't care. Like I had a post that did pretty well, but it was about my fiance who's like sitting right over here, and oh, can you hear us? Tay, the comments about the dog one that went viral. Yeah, there were like 50,000 people that were calling the joke essentially was that I put it on her that I had to get allergy testing so that we could get a dog. And 50,000 people called my fiance a cunt. And it was like she's so controlling. That's ridiculous. And it's like, guys, this is not. But I am a firm believer that I think the mindset we need to have now with like comments and Reddit threads on the internet that we really need to think about, and this is where I think like the next step is, when people comment that stuff, it's about them. It has nothing to do with like what you're posting. I don't want to say nothing to do, but it's a reflection of what that person is going through on their end.
It's also like, sure, I'm a cunt.
Yeah.
Whoa, like cool, yeah.
Right.
It's funny because one of the things I want to start posting more. We were talking about this today. Like I
Yes,
want to
we
do
were.
more
I
like
think
front
you would be-
facing, like
yes.
POV style stuff, or just like whatever. And I always say one of my biggest fears is like posting and someone's like, okay, body positive, or like, you know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
oh, I'm so
sure.
glad you had the confidence to post this. Like,
Yeah.
that is, I think that would break me more than someone calling me a bitch. Everyone calls me a bitch. I like that doesn't bother me.
You're like, I've been called a bitch in real life
oh
at
my,
Mike's.
to my face. I don't care. By my friends, by my like not by my family. I'm not gonna put that on them. But like, that doesn't bother me. Like, yeah, I speak up for myself, and I'm like, I don't let people like talk to me a certain way. If that makes me a bitch, then that makes me a bitch. Like, I don't really care.
Right.
I'm more worried about like the comments about like my appearance.
Was that something you were always insecure about?
Oh, always.
Really?
Always. I was like, I just was really like miserable growing up.
Really?
I was just really sad.
Yeah.
And I moved to a town called Tuckahoe. Like, all right, really phoned it in with that name. But I moved to a town called Tuckahoe when I was 12 turning 13, which is
Okay.
like the hardest time to move anywhere, right? Like,
yes.
and the kids were fucking mean. Like, and I got through it and I made friends, and like I have some friends, like there are some girls and some guys that I'm still friends with from high school, but for the most part, like I don't really talk to it's funny because now people's moms are like following me on Instagram to like see my stand up and will like stop my mom in the supermarket and be like, "Oh my God, Steph's so funny." It's like, yeah, I'm funny because your son made my life a living fucking hell. Like, yeah, I developed a sense of humor because, like,
because your son sucks.
Yeah, because your son sucks. But I don't know. It's being funny was like always the crutch for me. Like, I was never the skinniest. I was never the prettiest. And I'm not saying being skinny doesn't fucking matter. I have a much better outlook on my like appearance now than I did then. But something nobody could ever take away from me was that I was funny. And I still kind of, in a way, do feel like that.
Well, I want to go back to just kind of, because you mentioned, and this turns into, so let's use this as I think the jumping off point to get into the little point, which is that you suffer from bipolar disorder. And you said something very interesting, which is that I think for a lot of mental illness, a lot of people discover it in childhood, right? So you said you were growing up sad. Now, was that one of the signs? Like, when did you start to become aware that like something was like very, very wrong?
Well, I didn't get diagnosed with bipolar until I'm 29. I probably was like 25, 26. It's
wow,
like
so
really
late. Wow.
So they were just treating me for regular anxiety and depression. And like it was for the most part keeping my head above water, but like I didn't realize that people didn't wake up every morning like fuck, like shit. I didn't know that wasn't normal. Like I thought everyone had this like level of existential dread, and then I got a mood stabilizers and I was like, oh shit, like I do want to. I hadn't wanted to like kill myself for a long time, but it was like a constant. It was like weird. It was like a constant track in my head of like I'm just gonna fucking kill. Like at any inconvenience, it was like almost like an offhand joke, but I think something ingrained in me did almost always feel like, oh well, you have that out. If it gets really bad, you can just like.
Really?
But it did so. I asked my mom about this a lot too, because I'm like, when did you guys realize it in me? And I think like just the move, and like I was always a very emotional. I was always like very in touch with my emotions, but like, 15.
Not to interrupt.
No.
Can I ask why you said it like that? Was it like something like, was that a phrase like your parents said a lot to you?
No, I just think I'm a crybaby.
Oh. You know the reason then? I think because that was something, I'm probably projecting here because I heard that like from my end, which is like, no, he's just very sensitive.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that kind of thing.
It's funny because people always assumed I was like pretty tough. Like I never really came across as like, I remember when I got diagnosed with depression in high school, I was telling like one of my teachers, and he's like, no, you're not depressed. And I was like,
really? A teacher said that to you?
And he was one of my favorite teachers. I love him. But like, I just think at the time it was 2010, 2011. Like we were still learning a lot about like how this manifests in different people. And yeah, like I wind up going to the psych ward for like 72 hours. And it's such a joke in the psych ward. I watched Fresh Prince of Bel-Air for 72 hours straight. Like my parents had great insurance, and that's what we did.
So before, because I do want to touch on the psych ward,
Yeah.
but before we get there, I want to start like a little earlier.
Okay.
Right? Because it's just very like, it makes me sad because I also consider myself like I grew up like very sad, like very kind of, I felt very isolated growing up and lonely. So when did you first, I guess, start to have those? And I guess with bipolar, what makes it unique and specific to that is that it's these periods of mania and then depression, right?
Yeah, and I have bipolar too. So I get periods of hypomania, which is like a little different. So I'll like go on big spending sprees.
Is that okay?
Which is like part of it, or like I'll drink a lot, or drinking isn't really part. Like I'll just make stupid. I don't really do it anymore, but like I would just make really stupid, like reckless decisions, or like I would match with someone on Tinder that night and like not know them, not tell my friends where I was going, and just like show up at their house. Like really, like just stupid. I don't know, do whatever you want, but like I was doing things that were not good for me.
Right. And was it something like in that moment you knew it wouldn't be good for you? But
no, I just didn't care. I was just
okay.
like I was manic. I wanted to do what I wanted to do.
Right.
because I felt invincible. I guess to answer your question of like when it first started, I don't even know if he remembers this, but I have like a vivid memory. My dad used to just like on iTunes like show me music all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember him showing me Bohemian Rhapsody, and there's that line where he's like, "I sometimes wish I've never been born at all." I don't know how old I was,
Yeah.
but I remember turning to my dad and be like, "Oh, I get that," and he was like, "What are you talking about?"
Wow.
And I was like, like sometimes you just in my head I was like, you just feel really sad. You wish, like you. I don't even know if I fully processed why I related to that lyric, but I just think in the moment I heard it and it like was like, oh, I get that. And then it when it got really bad was like middle school, high school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's when everything just felt like so fucking heavy
Yeah.
and like hard.
Was that so you hear that lyric and you must be what, 8 or 10 at that
Yeah,
time?
probably.
Which is, yeah, that's a very. Did your parents or your dad in that instance, he didn't think anything of that, or?
I don't. Sometimes I'm like, is this a false memory? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get that.
I don't remember like much of the conversation afterwards. I remember my mom told me one time that like I was in pre-K and I just came up to her. I was like, "Mommy, I feel really sad." And she's like, "Why?" And I was just like, "I don't know. I just feel sad today."
Yeah.
And like, I think those things are normal, right? Like, I don't
Sure,
think
sure.
that like that is all a sign of like depression or bipolar or like something else. I I do think years later we kind of looked back at all these little moments and maybe realized that they were like a symptom of something bigger.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate because my mom is very open about mental health.
Oh, good. Okay.
And so like there was no problem with like getting me into therapy or getting me medicated. I think where I struggled is like nobody knew really how bad it was.
Right.
And it was kind of like, well, you're on Lexapro, like, well, like this doesn't excuse you, like whatever, doing dumb shit at 14 years old, like drinking in fields and blacking out, but like, which is what every 14, not every, but like, that's what a lot of kids do, is like they do stupid shit and get drunk.
It cuts to me in the Boy Scouts at
Yeah,
14.
yeah, really. Matt's like helping an old lady cross the street.
She's like, "What are you, a loser?"
Yeah, I'm like, well, almost everybody. No, just like doing dumb shit, and I think like I was getting in trouble for that, and I should have been getting in trouble for that. What I was doing was stupid. But what I don't think was like kind of realized under all of it is like, oh, this is like, there's a lot more at play here.
Totally.
And I think a lot of it, maybe I was probably using it as an excuse.
But here's my thing, and it's like, I appreciate that, like, you bring up the point. It's like, yes, there are moments where it's like people are going to feel sad. People are, that might not be symptomatic of something deeper, right? And I think that's where this disconnect, or I think it's obviously better now, but like that's where it was, which is like, yeah, it's normal to feel sad and whatever. Like, I do think there is this thing that every person has to deal with just about the human condition, that you just woke up here one day and nobody asked to be here, and you just have to live this life every day. And that is something that I think a lot of people who maybe don't experience severe depression or bipolar, they're like, yeah, everybody just does this. But with people with those diseases, I think it impacts them, on a more severe level.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think the thing that I always found, and it's funny, I was thinking about this today when I was like, what am I going to talk about? But like, I think the big thing for me is like, I had a really good childhood.
Yeah.
And my parents are together and they still really love each other. And like, my sister is great. And like, I had a really strong support system growing up.
Sure.
And so it almost made me feel, I'm so lucky to have those things. It almost made me feel worse being depressed because I was like, oh, it's you. Like,
Yeah.
there's something wrong with you. It's not your environment. It's not the cards you were dealt. Like, I grew up in a middle class family. My parents they both bent over backwards to make sure we had the best life possible. And it still does sometimes. I have these thoughts of like, it's something wrong with you. which is always a really interesting thing to navigate. And it's why I hate finding I'm not in therapy right now, but like I'm probably gonna I always just take like a little time off, but like it's why I hate going back and finding new therapists, because they're like, how's your childhood? And I was like, actually pretty fun. We went to Disney, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it was good. And so like that was always kind of weird to me.
Yeah, and it's so, like, I hear you, and like similar situation, right? My parents are still together, and we grew up, middle class, upper middle class household, that kind of thing. A very privileged childhood, and it's not lost on me. However, so much of it is lived life experience that those things, while obviously beneficial and advantageous, are not the end all be all,
Yeah.
right? So take us back to middle school, right? So you have this moment of that, which is heartbreaking, that lyric that you relate to at 8 or 10. And then you said it gets very, very severe in middle school, which makes sense because those are incredibly formative years for you, for anybody. And it's also that probably one of the shittiest times
for everyone.
for everyone.
Everyone's fucking miserable.
Everyone's miserable. Your body's changing, and you're just like, you don't know. You forget about, you don't know who you are yet. You don't even like, you're barely a person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so middle school was very difficult for you.
Yeah, I just think like the kids were mean. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds so cliche, but like I didn't feel like I fit in with anybody. I had a group of girlfriends that were like relatively two-faced throughout high school. Guys like openly I literally have never talked about this, but like I'm so proud of it, I don't even care anymore. In high school, or not in high school, starting in middle school, they used to call me koala because I look like a koala.
Oh, that's,
I don't see that, but
Yeah.
that's even if I do, okay,
yeah.
that's fine. But it was like they would call me that all the time, and it was like so hard. I just felt like so
Yeah.
ugly, and like so many nicknames for me, so many things, and like it just all sucked. And then like I would have guys who like had crushes on me, but like wanted to do it in secret because like I was getting bullied and like
Yeah.
I wasn't the cool girl in the group, whatever. And it all seems so trivial now, and I do look back and like I'm not sad about any of that anymore, but I
Yeah.
do wish I could just like go back to 7th grade me and be like, yo, these people aren't gonna fucking leave here, okay? Like
Yeah.
most of them, which is fine. If you want to stay in the suburbs, stay in the suburbs. But like most of them are like dating the same people that they did in high school or people they went to high school with. Like they're not doing anything monument. Like they have their own shit now too.
Yeah.
And so it's like I wish I knew that none of that shit fucking mattered. But it sucked. Yeah, it was really, really hard. And then I think I just kind of became a little mean. Like, oh, you want to be two-faced? Like, okay, let's.
Yeah.
I was never. One thing I never was fake. That was just never something about me. But I would tell you about yourself. Like, I would find out what is the meanest thing I could say to you in this moment. And I still am like that in a sense if I'm getting in an argument with somebody. I'm not going to pretend I'm not. But, like, I think it made me, like, yeah, like, kind of a little bit of a bully.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucked. And, like, I
Right.
really hope there aren't people, maybe there are, maybe they're not, but, like, I really hope there aren't people that, like, look back at high school or middle school and are like, wow, Steph Brown made my life fucking miserable. I don't think there are, but I'm sure I said one-off things to people
Sure.
that stuck with them, and that it sucks that, like, I did that, but at the same time, it really goes to show that, like, people who act like that are really, really hurting inside. And not that it's
Yeah.
an excuse, like, I shouldn't have been a fucking bitch, but, like, it is, like, so, it's proof of, like, what everybody says, which is, like, it's not, that person making fun of you is not happy with themselves.
Right. We go back to the comments thing, right? It's a
Yeah.
reflection. It has nothing to do with that. It's that person, and it's sad to hear, obviously, just because, yeah, there's a possibility, like, everyone's hurt I'm sure I've said things to people before where, that were mean and uncalled for. And actually one example comes to mind. But oh, hi Diesel.
Why are you crying?
What's the matter, buddy?
Okay, well.
I was just gonna say, I think it stinks that, like, it's all coming from a place of, like, defensiveness, right? Like, you had to do that because and I'm like this too. So, like, one flaw with me that I've actually been thinking about lately, and it goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning with, like, comedy, is, like, I'm overly judgmental because I'm terrified that people are gonna judge me. So I'm judgmental first to stop that.
That's crazy because I think everyone's judgmental.
Yeah.
I think it's about what you do and don't vocalize. And I think you
that's
do a
interesting.
very good job of not... I mean, you and I have talked shit together, don't get me wrong.
Right.
We've talked a lot of shit. But, like, you don't strike me as somebody who's judgmental because it's not like I'm sitting next to you at shows and you're constantly like, oh, my God, what the fuck is going on?
No, I think it's definitely when I pick and choose who I share my things with. So you're obviously in the know, and my fiance is as well. But no, if I'm at a show and I'm seeing someone perform, what I try to come back to combat that, right, is, just because, like, what I will say to myself if I'm watching someone perform, unless it's so terrible I find it, like, insulting, and, like, what they're doing, like, insulting to, like, the form or the craft or whatever, which I know sounds very douchey. But, like, if I don't like something...
Yeah, that does sound really douchey.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, thank you very And
Speaking of being judgmental.
speaking of being, I will say, I will just tell myself, like, oh, that's not for me, is where I've gotten. Where it's like, okay, like, this is all fine. We need everything. Like, everything can be, you know what I mean? That people are putting stuff, videos out, whatever, performances. That's just not for me. And that's okay. You found out about stand-up, like, in your 20s, right? Like, your mid-20s, where you, like, actually started considering doing it.
So I found a journal from, like, 2020. I started stand-up in 2023. So I found a journal from, like, 2021 or 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe earlier than that. That was like, oh, you should really consider doing stand-up. And it was something I always, and this is so conceited, and I don't care if you fucking post this clip or not, but it's going to get comments. I'm like, oh, who the fuck does she think she is? I every time I watch stand-up, I was like, oh, I could do that.
Yeah. But
I didn't mean I could do it better than that person that I was, like, I'm not fucking watching, like, Amy Schumer. I mean, I'm not crazy about her, but, like, I'm not watching Amy Schumer, like, oh, I could do better than that. Like,
right.
I'm not an idiot. But, like, I would watch stand-up and be like, oh, like, I could get up there and make people... If I can make people laugh, whatever, in the lunchroom or you know, in the kitchen at work or whatever, like, why couldn't I make people... Like, what's the difference? Why can't I make people laugh on stage? Now I know there's a huge difference between being, like, conversationally funny and stand-up. But, like, I always... I would watch it and I'd be like, I could do that. And then essentially... a friend approached me at a holiday party at work and was like, hey, do you do stand-up? I was like, no, I don't, but I've always thought about it. Her name is Lexi, who changed my life. Lexi happens to be partners with Emma Willman, so, like, two phenomenal people. So obviously she knows the ins and outs of the scene. Shannon Fielder was also working with us at the time, and they basically, like, pulled me into a conference room and sat me down and was like, okay, this is how you're going to get into stand-up. And I took the class at the Cellar. Should I stop talking?
The pups are going.
Hey!
Say, what are they barking at? Funny enough, I don't get it on the audio, so I think we're okay.
Oh, really? Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, then, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, basically, they pulled me into a conference room in the new year, and they're like, okay, this is how you're going to get into stand-up. And Shannon was like, you have to take the Cellar class. And I took the Cellar class with Veronica Mosley. It was the best thing I ever did. If anybody's thinking about taking the class, I can't speak to any of the other professors. I'm sure they're also great. Veronica is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it really did change my life.
And you were how old when you took the class?
How old am I now? I'm 29, so I did it 2 years ago.
So
I was 27.
and the only reason I ask is because now you would have known that you were diagnosed with bipolar at this point.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess like just trying to find like the connection in that, like, well, let's actually take it back to the moment when you find out your diagnosis. So now what is happening? You went through middle school and high school, very sad. You had histories of bullying and stuff like that. You go to college, when did you move to New York?
Like I mean, I'm from here, but like I moved into
Into the city.
And yeah, I'm from here.
That's like the most insulting thing I could have said.
Throw up on camera. No, I moved into the city in 2021. I like was doing pretty well in college. I think because it's like college is fake, right? Like it's a fake world.
It really is. Like I'm learning that now
Yeah, like it was fake. I had a group of friends. I loved them. Like, and I would have episodes. Like I look back now and like I would get into arguments with them and like I'd go into my room and slam my door and be like screaming, crying. Like I had like, and I was drunk, so like that didn't help either. But like I had like episodes throughout college, but after college it started getting really bad. I had this job that I couldn't stand, and I was going back to therapy, and I was looking for a therapist, and I basically told this woman like whatever my symptoms, and she was like, hey, I don't think I can treat you. Because I don't specialize in bipolar. And I was like, wow. Oh, I'm not. And she was like, no, I think you are.
Wow.
And so I started looking for therapists that specifically specialized in bipolar, wound up getting a formal diagnosis. But yeah, this bitch was like, you are crazy. I cannot deal with you.
So you kind of like, it was almost like a happy accident that you found out.
Yeah.
Wow.
I always kind of had a feeling.
Yeah.
Like I would have these like really high highs and really low lows, right? Which is obviously what bipolar is. And so I always had a feeling, and when she said it, everything kind of clicked together.
Mm-hmm.
But then there was the journey from like after getting diagnosed. So that was in like 2020, 2021. Then there was a journey of like finding the right medication.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of the reason, look, do I wish I started comedy earlier? Of course. But I don't know if I don't know what it would look like now. I don't know if I would stay because it was kind of like this perfect storm of like, I got on these mood stabilizers that finally worked for me, and I was taking the Seller class at the same time.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, this is what it's supposed to feel like.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of asked because, and look, I think this whole, and because I've had this anxiety too, and it sounds like maybe you're suffering from the same thing, where it's like, well, if I had started like 5 years earlier, like where would I be at now?
Yeah.
Here's my whole thing with all that, right? It's like, it doesn't really matter when you start, the fact that you started from a place of health and like wholeness, I think is way, way better.
Yeah, and it's funny, and I hate to fucking like bring up BoJack Horseman, but like which is so fucking lame of me to do, but like
it's okay. I said the pretentious craft thing earlier.
Yeah, no,
today,
that was
so
worse
we're
than what I'm about to say. Yeah, no,
Seriously.
don't get me wrong. There's if anyone's watched BoJack Horseman, whatever, there's this character Diane, and basically she is dealing with depression throughout the entire show. She doesn't get diagnosed till later. Spoiler alert, later seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But she's trying to write a book, and she wants to write like a book of essays that like basically talks about all her pain, and instead she writes the story about like a young like girl detective, and it's like a YA novel, and it's really good. And they're like, why don't you put this book out instead? I'm probably butchering the storyline, but like they're like, why don't you put this book out instead? And she's like, because then all that pain was for nothing. And it kind of feels like I went all like, then the pain is good pain, and I don't know if I'll ever shake that feeling for stand-up. And I don't necessarily even know if that's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, there is part of me with stand-up that feels like, oh, all those morning or nights, like, crying myself to sleep because I'm miserable and I hate myself and I want to be someone else. Or, like, being in the psych ward or like trying to kill myself, all that stuff, like it does in a weird way give it some type of purpose. Which I also think is a really dangerous mindset, right? Because then it's like, well, what if it doesn't work out?
Yeah.
Does it all feel for nothing? And I don't know if I think it is all for nothing, even if it doesn't work out. Like, I've had people, both audience members and comics, come up to me and be like, hey, it's really cool that you talk about being bipolar on stage. Like, I'm bipolar too. And, like, it's just cool to hear somebody else talk about it. And, like, I don't know if, there are things that are going to feel better than that, right? Like, if I one day get past at the cellar or do whatever, like, all that's going to feel great. But right now, being 2 years in, that's the best feeling in the world. Because then it does feel like, okay, I'm taking something bad and making it really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, too, the thing I would, because I know exactly how you feel. And the other thing I try to remember is I try to think about how many times have you heard, whether it's a stand-up, a piece of music or something that really affected you, and the artist or person putting it out into the world had no idea that it affected you like that.
Yeah.
All of that to say, I think when you, just by nature of putting it out there is enough. And I hope makes you feel full. Because you are, whether or not someone comes up to you after the show, I've seen your act and, audiences love you. And I'm sure there are people in the audience like getting that, if that makes sense.
No, it doesn't. Again, I really appreciate that. And I think, whether or not somebody does or doesn't say something to me.
Yeah.
It's just cool. It's also cool seeing other comics talk about being bipolar or, having an eating disorder or whatever the thing that they're battling is. Like, it's just, I think the thing that I love about comedy is, like, it is a vehicle for people to, like...
The dogs are barking if people can't hear.
No, I think it's the cool thing to me about comedy, or really any type of art, is, like, it's a vehicle for people to take this, like, hurt and brokenness and channel it into something that makes people just feel good.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And I think that's really, like, I can't imagine not doing that with my life.
Yeah. And that, I think, is where, and what I'm learning is that's where people who, like, that's the difference between, like, you and I, and let's say maybe, I don't want to say average person, but let's say person, like, not pursuing any of this, right? Is that because I'm thinking about quitting every fucking day, but I'm like, I can't not work the pain I'm going through, and I'm sure you can relate as well. That, and I'm talking about our own pain. I'm not comparing, but whatever you are experiencing, there's just something inside of you that you can't not try to express it in the way that we're trying to express it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I just keep going back. Look, I don't know what happens after this, right? Like, I'm not a religious person. I don't know.
What do you think happens?
I honestly have no fucking... I try not to think about it because I'll spiral out of control.
Okay.
I mean, not on camera, but I don't know what happens after this. I'm operating under the assumption that I only do this once.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But, like, if I only get to do this once, this is how I want to spend my time.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, too. It's like, if you would rather be doing something else or pursuing something else, then, like, do that.
Then do that. Well, that's what I tell comics who are like, oh, I hate this now. I want to quit. I wish I was doing X, Y, and Z. Then do it.
Yeah.
Comedy's not going anywhere. Like, if you fucking hate it and, like, you're like, oh, I wish I was a DJ, then go try to fucking DJ.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel as fulfilled, then maybe it's okay hating comedy while doing it. If it makes you feel fulfilled.
That is, yes.
You know what I mean?
No, I know exactly how you feel.
You're not going to love everything all the time.
No, and that's, look, I mean, that's like with even like something as silly as this. Like, it's, do you know the aggravation it takes to get this audio recorder? Like, just to figure all the tech and hardware stuff. But if it leads to, like, wonderful conversations like the one we're having, then, it's, but All
Oh
of
my
that
God,
to say,
shut the fuck up,
they
Diesel.
are. That's so funny. I think they're barking.
For those
at, like,
of you
some-
at home, it's an adorable dog minding its own fucking business walking across. Diesel, what's the matter?
Hi, Diesel. So.
You know what's so embarrassing? Bringing him into the dispensaries. Because they're like, oh, what's his name? And I'm like, oh, Diesel. And they're like, oh, like the weed.
Ew.
Do I look like a fucking loser? Are you fucking like the weed? Like the strain of weed? Get a hobby. Naming my dog after a strain of weed.
I thought I didn't even know there was a strand called Diesel. I thought it was like the.
Yeah, sour diesel.
Wow. How was the place over here? You went, right?
Yeah, it was cool.
It nice?
They were nice
cool.
in there. They gave him a treat. It was whatever. It was chill. Diesel, stop humping her.
Yeah, now Diesel's humping my fiance.
He never humps women. This is so fucking weird.
It's
Because
gotta
he's a twink. You guys can't see him.
He's
Well,
a
you saw him there.
twink?
He's a
Oh,
twink. Yeah.
no, good for him. Happy Pride,
Happy
Diesel.
Pride, Diesel.
Happy Pride. Love you.
What a nut job.
He is crazy. Well, I'm getting the sense, right, that comedy is helping you like work through the pain and suffering, right, that like you've had, like that bipolar disorder has like caused you, right? Was there anybody in your family that like suffered from bipolar?
I mean, no one that was diagnosed.
Yeah, no one
but
was like diagnosed. Yeah,
probably, you
Yeah.
know. But like, nobody was checking back then,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like you
the-
weren't
yeah.
going. I mean, I have like a history of addiction in my family. Who knows if bipolar like fed into that for anybody? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And
Yeah.
so, I mean, there are definitely, love you guys. There are definitely people on my mom's side that like are bipolar. I mean, enough's enough. And I do have one cousin, and they were diagnosed, and they're medicated. But like, there are others over there that really need the help.
Yeah.
Love them to death. But in terms of it like being genetic, I don't really know. But yeah.
How are you dealing with it now, like on a day-to-day basis?
I'm on it. I'm doing really well.
That's good.
I think the mood stabilizers are super helpful. I also got a new job in November
Okay.
that I love, that just like is way less stressful, and I don't feel talked down to, or I feel really respected at this place. And I don't have the work anxiety that I used to have. And I think I'm somebody who, like, if I have work anxiety, everything else spirals.
Yeah, yes. That is
everything, like,
well, especially I had a bad boss one time, and I mean like really fucking bad. Like I know people that were like senior to her that would talk to me after and be like, "We're sorry." Like that is
oh shit.
yeah, it was it. But you're like that I have like so much sympathy for, because that is, like you said, it takes up the rest of your life, because you're just waking up every day going to this like terrible place, spending the majority of like your waking hours there.
And I think too, like when I didn't have comedy, my identity was my job, right? And so it's like if you were doing bad at your job, you were, I felt just like a failure. Like I was like, okay, well then what the fuck am I good at? Like
yeah.
And I think something that's really helped me is like finding a thing that I'm good at.
Yeah. Oh my
outside
God, you're so
of
good at
work.
it. Yeah. And it's yes. Did that sound condescending? Like, oh my God, yes, you're so good at it. As the dogs bark. I didn't mean for that to sound condescending.
Adopt a cat, okay? Jesus Christ. No, it didn't sound condescending at all.
I know, that's just my anxiety talking. The thing I wanted to say before I got distracted. Finding something you're good at, like comedy, this outlet. Well, you said something that was really interesting, which is that you said your identity, it's not your job, which is something I learned also very early on. And like I work as a consultant during the day. That's something my first 2 years of my career I really had to like stay away from, because it's like you're so much. By the way, if you're listening, you're in a terrible job. You're so much more than your job.
Oh, your job does not matter.
Yeah.
It does not matter.
Yes.
And unless you're a doctor, you're not fucking saving lives, okay? And I think people really need to remember that, because it's like, oh, I didn't get this deck in on time. My boss is yelling at me like, cool, who died?
Right. That's the And it's the other thing with that is I also try to remember that, like, with comedy, which is harder for me at least, in the sense of, like, so much of, like, the anxiety I think early on is, like, oh my God, am I going to make it? And it's, like, you really, like, at least to me, what I try to remember is, like, look, I have this stuff I want to do. I have this stuff I want to make, you know, as long as I'm doing that, that's, like, that I try to have that be my definition of making it.
Yeah, and let me be more than clear. It is now pivoted to, if I'm not doing well in comedy, I feel like shit. Like,
Sure.
it still does feel like my identity. And, like, there's nothing worse. Some bombs I don't care about. Like, we all bomb, whatever.
Yeah.
I've had bombs, though, where I'm like, this is the worst feeling in the fucking world.
Yeah.
And so it does still really affect who I am. I think, like, I just try to figure out how to get out of that as quickly as possible. Like, write a joke that I'm really happy about and, like, try to crush out a mic. Or, like, even small things if I, like, can't figure it out at shows. I try to do... But, like, the pendulum is kind of swung the other way, where it's, like, my job still impacts my mood a little bit, but the thing that does, like, more is comedy.
Right. And that's sort of... Now, I know we talked about it being an outlet for, you know, when you're suffering from bipolar and mental illness. Are there any, like, triggers you've experienced in comedy? Because, like in other words, has comedy triggered anything that, like, you recognize as, like, maybe it's triggered like a depressive episode or a manic episode or something?
Definitely probably more manic, right? Because it's like, oh, when I do well, I feel like on top of the world.
Yeah.
I think the thing that is really interesting for me, because I always felt that, like, I wasn't super well liked growing up, or that I didn't fit in, or I couldn't find my people. I was saying this to another comic today. I always feel like I am on the verge of everyone of realizing they actually don't like me that much.
I relate so hard.
Like, I'm like one remark away, or like one whatever, like, enemy. Not that I have a bunch of enemies, but, like, you know, one thing away from people being like, actually, Steph Brown kind of fucking sucks. Like, why are we booking her? Why are we hanging out with her?
Mm-hmm.
I'm constantly convinced that, like, everybody at once is gonna find out that I actually am the worst, and, like, they don't want anything to do with me. And that comes up. I feel like that anxiety comes up for me a lot, but nothing has really triggered. I mean, nothing has really, like, triggered anything, like, huge for me. I think, like, I view myself a little differently because I just hear... I'm trying to figure out a way to put this that doesn't sound like I'm bringing down other women. Women will get on stage... Some women will get on stage and they'll talk about, like, how fat they are, and they're, like, 30 pounds lighter than me, right?
Sure.
Or, like, things like that trigger me more than, like, right? Like, it's just, like, realizing how you're perceived, and that's why I won't do roasts. Like, I really, like, don't... I have a whole philosophy around roasts that I won't get into, whatever. But that's why I won't do them, because I'm, like... I don't want to know how I'm perceived. I really don't. I don't want to know.
Boat. I would be way too sensitive.
And, like, realizing how you're perceived through other people's comedy is, like, really interesting to me.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I totally hear you, because I was actually just having this conversation with Taylor, because I think one of our friends is, like, doing a roast or whatever, and I was like, I can't do that. I don't want to know, to your point. I don't want to. And there's also, right, there's the other side of it too, where it's like, well, if you know how you're perceived on stage, that's the most important thing, because it's going to allow you to, like, connect to the audience more. I don't want to find out in that environment. You know what I mean? Like, I'll take my chances with, like I did a joke about how I look Jewish or something, and it wasn't hitting everywhere. And then it was funny. I had Ari Findling, who's a wonderful comedian here in Hoboken, on the pod. He's like, you don't look Jewish. You have the soul of a Jewish person. He's like, but you
Maybe that's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's like, you are an olive man. And I was like, that makes more sense. But yeah, I completely agree with you on the roast thing. I relate so hard to that thing where it's like you are one thing away from someone not liking you. And it's like, so do you watch Mad Men at all?
I work in advertising. I can't. Like, I don't fucking care. Oh, we made a ad for Heinz. Take me out back and fucking shoot me. I'm sure it's great. John Hamm. John Hamm, I know you're a huge fan of the podcast. I know you love to watch, so I am really sorry that I haven't watched Mad Men yet. But
it's so funny.
John Hamm, if you're watching, just drop a comment below and I'll watch.
It's hilarious. The reason I bring it up is that I think one of the reasons that we don't think about why it's such a popular show is because, right, Don Draper is living, spoiler, if you haven't seen a show from like 10 years ago.
That's on you.
It's
I'm sorry. I'm so done with the fucking spoiler alert. Guess what? I didn't even watch the show, and at the end of The Sopranos, you don't know whether or not he gets shot.
That's true. That's very true.
Watch the show in real time or don't watch it at all.
Do you know what did bother me, though, is that this is years ago, though. So this was all like, it was fair game. I was young, so I was like still discovering movies. Is that in 50 First Dates, they spoil that Bruce Willis is the ghost for The Sixth Sense. In the movie, that was annoying to me because I was like still at an age where I was discovering movies. And it's like now I can't watch that movie and discover that because I was watching this other movie and it's spoiled.
I don't think that's a fair... I don't think other... I don't know how I feel about movies spoiling other movies.
Really? You're on the fence?
Yeah, I don't know. That pissed me off for some reason.
Yeah.
As if I just told everyone how like the beloved HBO show Sopranos ends.
That one's okay though because that ended when we were in what, like 5th grade or
like,
something?
Come on.
Yeah. Also, my 5th grade teacher, I'm remembering, like talked about it with us, which is like such an
Really?
inappropriate show. Yeah, he was like, The Sopranos just ended, and I was like, we were 10. We should not have been.
Yeah, what the? Yeah, I don't need to know about racketeering.
That was a whole...
Like, what is going on?
What a class. Anyway.
Yeah, sorry, you were saying...
No, it's okay. What I was trying to say was that I think the reason that show is so popular is that Don Draper is Dick Whitman, right? He is not Don Draper. He is living with a mask. And I think that's how we all feel, and that's why we're drawn to that show, is that, like you said, I am constantly worried that one thing I say, or if I say the wrong thing, or if I say the thing that I said off camera, sorry, we're cutting that. If I say that, then everyone's going to hate me. Everyone's going to see me for quote unquote who I really am,
who you are,
and then they won't accept you. Yeah,
I feel like I'm duping people.
Yeah,
like,
I feel like that all the time.
I feel like when people are like, oh, because people are always like, oh, you're so cool, you're so fun, we love you, everyone loves me. But like, no, I do. I feel like I'm tricking people.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, they're gonna figure out that I'm actually just like this insecure loser, essentially, and I'm not gonna. They're not gonna want to be around, and it's like, no, you just found your people, and like they like being around you because they have things in common with you, and they like who you are, and you whatever. But like, yeah, I'm constantly convinced that like I'm seconds away from.
I know.
It feels like even worse than being canceled, right? Because it feels like it's like the court of public opinion, you know?
Yes, and what makes it like 10 times scarier in our case is that because comedy is such a likability game.
Yeah, then you don't get booked.
You don't like, and also too, like, I will say it sucks because I heard Gary Goldman say this, and I love this. The best part of comedy is the people. And to be like, in other words, like the friends you'll make along the way. Not everybody.
Yeah, wait, no, I'm making that face because who's Gary Goldman?
Gary Goldman? Oh, my God. He's incredible. Have you seen The Great Depression?
Okay, I'm not thinking of the same person.
We're not? Okay.
I was like, oh, my God, I used to work with him at my old internship.
Oh, really?
He had a comedy podcast.
Oh, he's like 60. He's like
60.
He would. Oh, my God.
Oh,
He's
no,
not
that's
60.
not
I think he's
him.
like 50-something.
Gary from Boswell, if you're watching this, I remember you being really funny.
So funny. So funny. It's like we believed you were a comedian.
Yeah.
No, but he talks about like the best part about like comedy is the people, and like I'm very lucky. I'm in a place where, starting more people donating books. It's fantastic.
This was our fault.
This was really
was our fault.
But you know what's even funnier is I don't think I'm gonna listen back. I don't think the mics are picking up them barking. So it's really, I think, to the people
Here,
listening,
I
it's
can
going to be
do
some... Oh, look at now they're coming over.
What happened? Come here, Stinky.
What happened, Diesel?
Goodbye.
Diesel, baby.
Goodbye.
But let's get sappy stuff. That's why I'm like so grateful for you. You were my first comedy friend.
Really?
Yeah. You were like my first person I trust. And yeah.
Oh my God, that means
You're-
you weren't my first, but I mean, I think friend's a strong word, but
You're like, no, you're great. No, you're really great.
No,
So
I really
cool.
appreciate you. I love you, Taylor. I love you. You guys can't see Taylor, which is a fabulous outfit on. I love you guys so much. And yeah. Also, side note, I've decided I don't want tacos. I think I want a cheeseburger.
Do you want a burger? We can wrap up. Are you guys ready to wrap?
No, we don't need to wrap. I mean, if you want to keep going, we can keep going. I just want to.
No,
tell
I
you.
was gonna say I think we're doing okay on time because you want to go to Far Side for this is like so not interesting to people listening. You want to go to Far Side? All right, let's do that. You down for like a bar food type
Yeah.
mood? Let's do that. Let's end on Steph. We always finish with if someone's going through what similar to like what you're going through, right? So if someone is young, listening and they were just diagnosed with bipolar, if they're struggling with mania, depression, just anything related to what you've experienced, what advice would you give to them?
The world is so much bigger than you think it is. I think that is like something I really, really, really wish I knew is like it's bigger than not being on the homecoming court. It's bigger than having to ask somebody to prom because you didn't get asked. It's bigger than that small, shitty little town you're in that nobody fucking leaves. It's bigger than all of that. And that doesn't mean, like, I'm not saying New York is the place for you. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But, like, you'll find your people. I do genuinely believe that good people come out on top. And I think it's just about finding your... And it takes a while. It took me forever. Like, it really took me such a long time. And now I'm 29 years old, and I have some of the best friends that I've ever had in my entire life. Like,
and some really good acquaintances.
Yeah, and some really good people who invited me on their podcast. So
that really heartfelt opened up, and
Yeah.
you're like, "You're my first friend. Oh, you're great."
Yeah,
No,
it was so nice meeting you.
No, and that's such a good point too. And like, you might think you've quote unquote found your people, and they might not be your people. That happened to me in like my mid-20s.
Yeah, same.
I was hanging out with a bunch of people that I thought were... Taylor's looking at me like funny because she knows off camera. I'll tell you off mic the story. But basically, people I went to college with that I thought I was like very close friends with, and they were my people. And, we cut them out, and I'm the happiest I've ever been. So, sometimes it does take a lot of time. It takes a very long time, but stick to... I love that answer.
Yeah, it's bigger. There's more out there. It's bigger than all of this.
Yes.
And I think if I knew that in 7th grade or 10th grade or whatever, it would have been...
I wish I knew 7th grade stuff. We would have been friends. Been so fun.
Yeah, I was out of my mind. I mean, I wasn't medicated. That was like the point of this entire fucking podcast, right?
Steph, tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram, stephbrown.jpg, JPG. It's actually really embarrassing. One time I told someone my Instagram and they go, "Oh, you're a millennial?"
That's embarrassing. Holy crap. Oh my God.
I'm 29. Yeah, I know. I look good for my age.
Do I need to change my pen of comedy? Is that millennial?
No, it's the .jpg that they were
Oh
getting
my
hung up
God.
on. But yeah, follow me on Instagram. Follow Girls Interrupted Comedy on Instagram.
Yes, great show. It's always a good time.
We're doing it every other month now. I do it with Trevor Liberty. He's a fantastic comic. Look him up. But the next show, I believe, is August 28th. But follow us, and we'll post about it.
Steph Brown, you're a gem. You're
Thank
hilarious.
you.
Follow her. Follow everything she does, because 10 years, she's going to be a household name. She's fucking hilarious.
Man, I hope it's 10 years.
10 years. Imagine you're like, 4.
4. I'm like, yeah, no. I'm like, oh, everyone doesn't know me now. But no, thank you so much. This was so much
you're
fun.
the best. And here's to hoping we left you a little higher. And that's the podcast, baby. We did it.